Hello, probers.
Howdy.
Welcome to But It Was Aliens, the extraterrestrial comedy podcast brought to you by two former Mibs. One of us is Gray and the other is your host for today, the king of the street grannies, the prince with the perfect peach, and officially the bestest of best friends, Granny Moonwalker. I'm too salty to give you a proper introduction, so probers, you know who he is. He's Kevin the Grey.
Did you write this after
This was
last week?
Yes. I did adapt this beginning for last week, and we didn't record in the end. So I'm artificial salt today.
You were salty last week. Makes sense.
I was very salty last week.
I was not. And I'm still not.
So today's probe. Nobody knows the exact date, but it was an afternoon in 1979. If you're going to ask me when, I can't tell you.
Starting strong.
But it was around between, fucking hell. It was between 4 and 5 p.m. Josie Zwinenberg, a young 21-year-old, was out riding her horse in the forest near Leusderheide military training facility. I'm going to call that LD from now on.
That makes absolute sense. Can I ask a quick question?
You can,
When-
whether or not I have an answer.
Well, you might. When you say she was a young 21-year-old, do you mean she was in the early stages of 21? Or are you referring to 20 being young and 21?
Being young and 21.
So how do you become an old 21-year-old?
By being 89 years old, but having the mindset of a 21-year-old.
So how old was she actually?
She was a young 21, not an old 21.
Asking
right
that
now,
stupid question has confused myself.
I would class myself as an old 17.
Yeah. I'd probably classify myself as a young 60-year-old.
And you wouldn't be wrong. Josie recalled that she was in the thick of the forest, but was... Why can't I talk today?
Because you're not salty. You haven't got that venom. This episode is written during a time of high salt. You need the salt running through your veins to channel it.
Artificial salt isn't working well. So she was
You need a pack of walkers.
in the thick of the forest
Or lays.
and approaching a right angle bend where you can enter a bridle path that ran directly opposite. For fuck's sake. Where did I even get that from?
I don't know what just happened. I was listening rather than reading the notes. You could have gone anywhere and I'd have not realised.
That ran directly alongside the training grounds. But when she turned around that bend, there in front of her was something she never expected to see. There, silently hovering over the path, was an oval-shaped object. Shocked, she then looked around to see if anybody else was witnessing this bizarre occurrence. But unfortunately for her, Josie was alone.
Lonely.
The object stayed eerily still and was bone-chillingly quiet.
Oh.
So quiet, in fact, that you'd liken it to a statue, but for the fact that it was hovering. Lights began to appear along the edge of the object. It was like a spectacle, a disco light and glitter ball. She sat there on her horse for around 15 minutes before daring to move a little closer. The closer she got, the more Josie looked at the object and the more details she would take in. The size of the object would become apparent. The motionless would become more intriguing. She expected the object to fly away at any moment, but it didn't. It was at this point that Josie decided to get closer still, and to her surprise, her horse showed no signs of anxiety or fear, and happily walked closer upon her urging it to. When she was only several feet away at the edge of the trees, she could see the enormous curve of the dome, describing it as being at least 100 feet across and made of some kind of dull grey. At the base of the dome, there were giant light boxes, each full of orange lights. In fact, there was so much lighting at the bottom of the object that she could barely see clearly through the glow.
So, mysterious object by a military base.
Yes.
That doesn't seem hugely surprising in terms of places to see an unusual flying object. Now, my question, I guess, is whether this is...
a flying object or a hovering object?
Well, tomato, tomato. If it can hover, it can fly. Might not fly very far, but it's flying. Hoverfly. Bitch. Lost my trail of thought. Need to find me a bridle path. Silly question. What is a bridle path? Something I feel like I should know.
Sensible answer. I don't know.
My mind went to, like, is that a path towards somewhere people tend to get married a lot, like a wedding spot? I'm sure it's just a name for a certain type of road, but it's not something that's colloquially used around where we grew up.
You know how sometimes you will see a wedding shot and the bride and groom are on a long path towards like a church in the background or something. I would just assume
that's where my mind went. I bet it's nothing to do with that at all, is it? Probably it's just like a flowery path. What was my other thought? Right, yeah. Is it experimental tech being experimented near the military base? Or is it extraterrestrials coming to get a closer look at what kind of tech these earthlings have?
How about we continue and find out?
Okay, spoil my fun.
Josie decided to stop the horse to dismount and walk directly underneath the strange craft. However, almost as soon as she brought her horse to a stop, it became suddenly startled.
Craft turned on. Stansted.
Something was moving in the bushes to her right. Her horse was a tough bastard and wouldn't be startled by normal creatures in the forest like foxes, rabbits or deer, so Josie became more alert. Using focus, she would stare at the bush.
It's super effective. She used stare. I caught it.
She kept her focus on the moving vegetation, but was unable to make out whatever it was her horse had seen. After a few moments, though, she heard the snap of a branch on the forest floor on her left-hand side, and all of a sudden, Josie felt a surge of fear.
Uh-oh.
Something she'd never experienced in that forest before. She elaborated further that there was a sudden, strange, uncanny atmosphere in the forest, and of more concern, she had the sudden feeling that she was not alone.
Are you putting a image of a pop culture reference at the end of every single section of your notes?
No, just those ones popped me. Usually I'll only pop them in if they come to mind whilst I'm doing the research, like instantly.
They've come to mind, all right. I've got the Pokemon theme in my head.
Josie would then yell to her horse to get out of here, and her horse didn't waste no time before it bolted.
Did she yell to it in human language or horsey language?
Whichever one floats your boat.
Horsey language.
Then she yelled in horsey language.
As she poured some milk in a shoe. Oh, we've got some artwork here.
An artistic rendering of what she saw.
Yeah, I'm going to ignore the craft in this watercolour artwork that's got all sorts of disco lights going on around it and focus on what I assume is the brook or river leading towards it. Oh, that's a path, isn't it?
That's the bridle path.
That's the bridle path.
Which would also explain a bridle path.
Okay, so are those footprints in the path? Because I thought they were heads bobbing in the water.
I think they're horse hooves.
Okay, horseshoes. Yeah, that makes more sense. So now let's look at this craft. Yeah, that is having an absolute party, isn't it? It's higher than I expected. I thought it was hovering just off the floor when you talked about having the boxes underneath the orange boxes.
I think
you said she walked under it. I was thinking, did she crawl?
I think it was a bit lower, but artistic license, someone has drawn it higher.
I wonder if the horse just didn't realise it was there and then suddenly clocked it, and that's why it started freaking out. Because it was hovering, flying still.
Something in the bushes that startled the horse.
Well, that could have been unrelated.
What if there was a hum coming from it?
As in a stench?
No.
That craft absolutely hummed. Imagine if aliens just smell like shit.
That would be awful.
Even to each other, they stink. You want to get down in Pound Town? Woohoo! No! You stink like shit! They go extinct immediately. That's a fun little tangent. I didn't sleep great last night.
Did you?
Thought I got up too early again.
I slept like a baby.
Oh,
like a baby.
I slept like a baby, just not for long enough. Like a baby. I slept exactly like a baby, it turns out.
It would be almost 40 years before Josie would tell anyone of the encounter. She further stated that she had not seen anything like that before or after. She was more than certain that it was not some kind of hallucination, but a tangible object in this physical world. What's more, it was not just lights, but a very large structure, like something out of the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Or Flight of the Navigator.
I was trying to think of another film to quote them, but my mind just went blank. I was about to say, or Waterboy. Adam Sandler popped out.
Alongside Matt Damon.
Josie would also offer that whilst the incident didn't change her life in any way, she was glad she had seen it. And as a result, she tended to be more watchful of the skies above. Josie believes that the entire episode, from first noticing the object to her speeding away from the scene, lasted around 20 minutes. Once she arrived back at the riding school, she took her horse to the stable before mounting her bike and cycling home. Once there, she informed her mother of what she had seen. A little to her surprise, her mother took the account incredibly seriously, informing her that she needed to call the police. The nearest police station was in Zeist. They then placed a call to the police force. It was a conversation that she was immediately suspicious of. She informed the person on the switchboard that she had seen a UFO in the forest near the LD military base. The person on the switchboard immediately said, "That's impossible, as they didn't see anything on radar."
They got fobbed off. They got mibbed off, in fact. You'd at least listen and take a look, wouldn't you? You wouldn't just think, nope,
You would.
straight away. They've been told to say no. Military shit in the woods. They've had the heads up. I think if that was aliens, then they wouldn't have had the heads up and they'd want to check.
I would check that out straight away.
Did she have any missing time, I wonder? She thinks it lasted around 20 minutes, but we don't really know, do we?
We don't.
And she pegged it away. Maybe she awoke. She returned to consciousness back on the horse, and the horse was freaking out at that point because the horse knew that she and or they had been gone a little while.
But would she have the memories of telling the horse to bolt, or do you think...
Oh, that's when she came back.
All
She
of
told
that
it to bolt,
was-
but that had already happened.
Everything had already happened, and then there's a spate of missing time, and then she tells the horse to bolt.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Okay.
Military abducted her. I've got my thinking in order, my friend.
You saying the military slabbed her?
Yep. Took her off the planet, slabbed her, created a hybrid species, and then dropped her back.
To Josie.
Oh, I do have one other question, sorry.
Go ahead.
It's just gone from my mind, sorry. No. Shit. Who did she tell her story to?
Her mother.
There it is. Who did the mum tell the story to?
No one.
How do we know about it?
You will find out.
Okay.
To this, Josie countered by asking how he knew, as the police don't have radar.
That should have occurred to me.
Once more, matter-of-factly, the switchboard operator stated that if something had happened, they would have called the base, and since they didn't call, there's nothing that can be done. And with that, the operator hung up.
Cold-blooded. That's a savage operator.
Only after the conversation did she realise the operator had not even taken basic details, such as her name, address, contact telephone number, or anything else that might have been used in a report. And because of this, she realised there would not only be no kind of investigation into the incident, but there would also be no record of it.
Mm-hmm.
It was after this that she never spoke of it to anyone else until 39 years later.
Then she squealed.
In 2007, Josie was sitting in a coffee shop section of an Albert Heijn supermarket when she noticed a copy of the Telegraph newspaper. It's actually called The Telegraph.
Yeah.
She picked it up and began flicking through it, eventually coming to an article about the most important UFO sightings in history. One of the sightings on the list was the Leusderheide UFO encounter, which also unfolded in 1979 at a location only 2 miles away from where Josie experienced her own sighting.
No!
Josie now began to wonder if the object witnessed at the Leusderheide base was the same as the one she witnessed, and the more she thought about it, the more convinced she was that that was indeed the case, despite the significant media coverage at the time. Eventually, in 2010, Josie arranged for the internet to be connected to her house, and with a renewed interest in looking up to find out what she might have seen, she began researching UFO encounters, including the previously mentioned Leusderheide encounter, in the hope that it might shed some light on her own sighting.
Is this an image of her?
That is a picture of Josie.
She's got nothing to gain from this, really, 40 years later.
No.
She looks like a pretty credible person. Nothing jumping out as suspicious about her. She's reasonably well dressed. She's not
Except
in
her crazy
some
socks.
Illuminous alien attire or mib suit. Nothing about her shouts, "I'm making money from this." Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Very, very posed photo, obviously for the media. Reading a book, but regardless.
Josie would eventually find herself on a website that had the contact details of UFO researcher and investigator Robert Salas. And one of the things the website offered was that Salas had a particular interest in investigating UFO sightings and encounters near military bases. She sent him an email, mainly about the Leusderheide encounter, and if it had any connections to her own sighting. And almost immediately, she received a reply.
By God.
Salas wanted to know what exactly had happened. Where was the base? And did she know if it housed nuclear weapons? As well as whether there were any American soldiers at the base. Needless to say, Josie was overwhelmed by the response. She was, though, more certain than ever that what she had seen was most definitely real and could very well have a connection to other UFO sightings, specifically the incident at the Leusderheide base.
Which we're now about to cover.
The Leusderheide case. Dum, dum, dum.
I get why they're asking if it housed nuclear weapons.
How is she meant to know that?
Well, yeah, that as well. But we've covered lots of cases where entities have explored nuclear bases. And that makes absolute sense, both from a terrestrial and an extraterrestrial origin, seeing what your enemy's capable of and whatnot. Why does it matter if there's American soldiers at the base? Is it because the Americans had commissioned/developed the experimental tech, and so if there's an American military presence at an international base, it may imply that they're experimenting with the tech there, or maybe even sharing the tech? I think I've just solved your case, sir.
But have you?
Yes. Maybe. I might have. The switchboard operator sounds like a really... don't know why I'm still using that voice. What a hero of an operator. He's not taken any details and hung up on them.
Mm-hmm.
I hope he didn't get any comeuppance, or they didn't get any comeuppance for that.
I don't think she mentioned it to anyone again, so I don't think it even got mentioned they'd done it.
Amazing. Imagine having the sort of job where you could just rip into the public when they ask you for a service. Like you're working at a checkout and someone comes up to you with a bottle of vodka, pack of chewing gum, pack of condoms, and you're like, fuck you, and throw them at them. No comeuppance whatsoever. What an amazing job.
Josie gathered as much information as she could and passed it on to Salas, who would eventually write off the incident in his book, Unidentified: The UFO Phenomenon, placing the encounter into the public domain for the first time. That wouldn't be the end of the strange events for Josie. In 2011, Josie was on holiday in Ireland, somewhere she visited often.
Mm-hmm.
This time, Josie would find a small hotel/pub to stay in. Once her room was sorted, she would come down to get something to eat. The manager then came over to inform her that they'd made a mistake and booked her into a room that was already booked. There was actually no room available.
Ooh.
After making the mistake, they would help to find her somewhere else. And they did. She thanked them and was on her way. She recalled that it was in the middle of nowhere when she eventually found the accommodation. She pulled into the drive and parked her vehicle next to a silver Jag. Almost immediately after parking, a gentleman approached her car, telling her, "I have been waiting for you for a long time."
That's a pick-me-up.
He introduced himself as Tom. Tom would check her into the bed and breakfast. He began to make polite small talk, and as he did so, he began speaking about subjects such as the alleged end of the world and the apparent predictions contained in the Mayan calendar. She found the choice of subjects strange for small talk, but didn't think too much about it as he showed her to her room. Before he left, Tom asked Josie if she would like to join him for a drink. She thanked him for the invite, but stated that she wished to do some sightseeing in Blarney for the evening. He offered that in that case, he would take his car to Kinsale, which was around 25 miles to the south of Blarney, to have some work done on it. Josie, on the other hand, made her way to Blarney. Saying Blarney keeps throwing me off.
It's a strange sounding place name.
I keep thinking of Black Barney the dinosaur. Boom! Starts busting a move for no reason. You hear the beat.
I love you.
Break it down. At one point in the evening, Josie was sitting on a bench drinking a coffee when she noticed a large black SUV with tinted windows slowly approaching her. To her disbelief, when she looked into the open passenger window, she could see Tom.
What?
The same Tom who had checked her into her bed and breakfast, and he was driving the vehicle. She wondered why he was in Blarney driving a different vehicle when he had told her he was going to Kinsale. Even so, she waved at him enthusiastically. She was more than shocked when he turned in her direction with a steely face, drove straight past her without acknowledging her.
Maybe he's got a twin.
It wouldn't be the last time she would see Tom that evening.
Or Tom's.
Josie made her way back to the bed and breakfast, and as she walked through the door, Tom was in the doorway. They greeted each other, and Tom offered that he had changed his mind about going to Kinsale and had decided to stay home. He then asked once more if she wished to have a drink with him, now that she was back. Out of curiosity more than anything else, Josie said yes.
Mistake!
To begin with, the evening was pleasant, with the conversation flowing between them naturally. Then, however, Tom stated to Josie that it's not a coincidence that you're here, is it? She asked what he meant, to which he responded, surely you have a story to tell. Josie later recalled that because of the extraordinary things in his stories, she had the distinct feeling that he was attempting to provoke her into speaking of her UFO encounter. Perhaps he had read of it in Salas's book, she reasoned. Regardless, she found herself saying, "You're right. I've seen a UFO near an Air Force base." Almost as soon as the words had left her lips, the sound of the doorbell ringing broke the concentration. Tom excused himself, stating that this would be a friend with whom he was expecting. As he left, he also said that his friend would probably also be interested in her story. Moments later, Tom's friend joined them, and Josie told them of her sighting over 40 years earlier.
This has taken such a weird twist that I've got to see where it goes now. I am locked in. I was thinking, oh, there's a part 2 to this story. She's gone too far, telling too much. It's bullshit. Nope, absolutely not. I am in. I'm strapped to my seat. What's going to happen?
And there is a picture of Josie along the bridal walk, just showing.
Is that a bridal path?
Bridal path, that's it.
Is it?
Bridal walk.
Why is she doing like the hail sign with 2 hands?
So not the hail sign.
Double hail.
I wonder if she's showing like
Hail to the forest, baby.
This big.
Well, maybe. It was spread out in front of me in this direction. Okay. Back to Tom, mother trucker. And Tom's mib friend. Do you reckon they had it hooked up like on mics? As soon as she began to squeal, he hit the button and the friend who was waiting outside the whole time listening hit the doorbell.
Possibly.
It's time to listen.
Let's find out. The 2 men listened enthralled, each throwing question after question at her. She noted that each man returned to the same topic every now and then, whether she had suffered any kind of memory loss. Tom then told Josie that on the afternoon in question, she wasn't alone.
She was on a horse.
Josie countered that she was the only one there, just her and her horse. Tom insisted you weren't alone. They saw you. She asked who he meant, and he replied that special forces were there. He continued that she had been on the heather, continuing that there is a red and white gate there, and you weren't supposed to go over there.
Oh.
This, Josie confirmed, was true. In her mind, though, she couldn't understand how Tom knew this detail.
This is messed up.
It was something she hadn't told Salus or anyone else. She then came to the realization that Tom had also been dropping hints that he knew far more about the encounter and herself than she perhaps thought. When she finally asked how he knew about the gate, Tom asked her once more if she suffered any memory loss.
How would you know if you can't remember?
Once more, she stated to the best of her knowledge that she hadn't. And there's a picture
There's
there
the
which
red and
shows
white
the
gate that clearly... Well, to be fair...
You would think you could go through it with it like that.
When, and I've mentioned this kind of thing many times on the podcast, when I'm walking my dog, I often go through fields and farms and don't really know where I am a lot of the time. I go through all sorts of gates. I'd have no idea. Sometimes I'll see red and white, like rope tied around trees and stuff, and I assume that's just where branches have fallen and it's to notify the workmen to cut them and that kind of thing.
Possibly. But I suppose if you're right near a military base, would you still go through?
Yes, because I'd expect if I wasn't supposed to go through, it would be closed and barbed wired.
Yeah, good point. The conversation...
That's really not the most protected military base. Imagine if you're doing top secret military shit in a base and your only protection is a little metal gate about waist height that is open.
And a woman on a horse came through.
Yeah. All you've got to do is just walk off the path and you can walk past the gate. It's not exactly, like, hard to access, is it? It's just a field with a path through the middle of the field. Step off the path, you're in.
The conversation continued for several minutes before it took another strange turn. Tom's friend asked Josie if the large black SUV parked outside the bed and breakfast was hers. She didn't recall seeing the vehicle when she arrived back, but she confirmed that it wasn't hers. Of course, she knew that she had seen Tom driving that very vehicle earlier that evening. However, she kept this information to herself. Tom's friend then asked Tom if the vehicle was his. To Josie's amazement, Tom said it wasn't, and when he asked if he knew whose vehicle it was, he simply replied, "No, I haven't got a clue." Josie recalled at this point she was both surprised and scared. She realised it was very late and not safe to drive anywhere else. The three of them decided to venture outside to see the black SUV. However, when they did so, it was no longer there. Now struggling to contain the fear she felt, Josie asked them bluntly who they were and if she was safe. To this, Tom's friend replied that she was with the safest men in Ireland. Josie then informed the men that she was tired and was going to bed. Incidentally, she didn't sleep at all that night and left the bed and breakfast first thing in the morning.
So, were these men trying to find out what Josie knew about something they or their company were involved in? Or were they trying to work out what their own rivals were up to because Josie was a witness to it? I don't know. It doesn't clarify, does it?
Doesn't.
They knew more than they should know, but that's not to say that they worked for the same people. They could have just done their due diligence and they are waiting for witnesses to pop up. Oh, this is an intriguing one or a cracking short story. That was a twist.
To summarise,
no!
We have the case of Josie Zwinenberg, who was out riding her horse.
Did she live?
When she encountered a large hovering oval-shaped object. She would investigate for over 15 minutes before her horse got startled. Josie used focus and noticed movement in the bush. Fear would then overwhelm her and she bolted atop her horse. She would tell her mother, who told her to tell the police, who informed her that they found nothing on radar before telling her they couldn't report it and then hanging up. For nearly 40 years, she didn't tell anyone before she saw something in a newspaper about an encounter close to hers. She then got the internet and made contact with an investigator, telling them her story, which then went into his book. Following this, 4 years later, she went on holiday to Ireland, booked a room to be told there was no room, went to stay elsewhere where she met Tom. Tom seemed friendly, but would say some weird shit that would put a normal person on alert, but not Josie. She would be blanked by Tom and then see Tom again, this time offering to have a drink with him. Tom said more weird shit that would suggest he knew more about her than she knew, and when she mentioned the UFO, there was a knock at the door. Tom's friend appeared, and she would explain everything to Tom and his friend. She was still none the wiser as to how he knew these things about her. His friend then asked about a van outside. They went to look and the van was gone. Josie finally started to get worried and asked who they were and if she was safe, to which Tom said friend? Tom's friend said, "You're with the safest men in Ireland." Josie excused herself, saying she was tired, went to bed, didn't sleep and left the next day. Greybeard. Do you believe in any way, shape or form that this was an extraterrestrial encounter?
So I think it's been heavily implied throughout that it's military rather than extraterrestrial.
No, it hasn't.
Well, it has.
Not.
We know about the first part of the story from her story being told to the person who put it in their book.
Mm-hmm.
How do we know about the second part of the encounter?
Josie's words.
Who did she speak to?
Someone.
The photos you provided for me of Josie, were they part of the short story or the later squealing? She squawked. You didn't say anything.
I said everything.
She's gone too far, hasn't she? But that was a phenomenal going too far.
Right. I'm going to say something just to bring you back in and see where you sit.
Right.
So I always thought she went too far, especially with why after 40 years would these people just turn up out of the blue, and why didn't they turn up like a week or 2 weeks after the event happened? Mm-hmm. Well, the operator didn't take any details, and it wasn't until it was published in the book 40 years later that did anyone know about it. So did they hunt her down after reading it in the book?
That's what's implied, but then they referred to the special forces knowing she was there.
Yeah.
So why didn't they do anything if they knew?
They might have been there observing and then wondered if anything happened. What if they were part of that original team, hiding in the bushes?
Maybe they thought they completely wiped her memory, but when she went public, they realised the job was only half done. So they wanted to go and check what she knew, whether their dealings were safe from the public domain.
What if the UFO was a giant neuralizer and they were checking if it had done its job?
What if this was all made up?
What if it was a neuralizer and they're just checking if it done its job?
I mean, regardless, I'm not saying that it was aliens. Are you saying that it was aliens? We're talking right now about it being military.
I'm not, but
yes,
I was hoping you might.
You're talking to me about the military and...
No, I'm not saying it's aliens, but I was hoping you might.
Oh.
I'm saying this is fucking aliens.
But I guess the question is, was it military or did it happen? And that's a hard one to answer. We don't have... All we've got is a person's story in a newspaper, I guess.
That we do. But if it was military, isn't that all we would have if we did have anything?
Potentially, but then the military might have disclosed some stuff. They could have said, yeah, we were working on something, or it was some sort of jet. She was mistaken on what she saw. It wasn't oval shaped. It didn't have lights all around it. It just had very bright landing gear on. We were working on one of those Harrier jets that hovers when it takes off and lands so it can launch from boats and whatnot without a runway.
It's true.
Would have been noisy as shit, though. Still doesn't answer whether it happened or not.
It's for you to answer.
I want to say that it did, that I don't think in my heart of hearts I believe it. 40
Well,
years.
you think a little bit further down, not in your heart, but in your plums.
Yeah, I don't think I do. Maybe you'll have a better steer on this than me, having researched it and seen her account directly.
I don't believe this happened at all. But I was
giving you the opportunity to talk me in there.
I was intrigued to hear what you were going to say.
40 years later is immediately suspicious to me, and to an author.
I think it's a really good story.
Yeah, a phenomenal second act.
Premise of a good story that will potentially be made into a film someday or something. But
know what was going to happen with those toms.
In no way do I believe this happened.
No, and it feels like by the time part 2 kicked in, she could have done more to prove that part.
The trouble I have is the fact that if we had a young picture of Josie there, kind of showing what she saw, and the older version, I could believe that. However, just having the older one, it could have just been someone they paid to take those pictures, or they might have just made the story up and asked a woman to take those pictures, and now she is Josie.
My issue, so 79, so we're talking 2019, part 2 happened. Camera phones all over the world by that point. You'd snap the bloody SUV, snap Tom, send it to a family member if you were worried.
I mean, it was 2010, I believe, not 2019.
Oh, was it?
But
even so.
Same.
Yeah. Camera phones were around in the early 2000s. Yep. You'd gather evidence to cover yourself in case something did happen to you, I think, in that situation. She could have phoned someone, spoken to someone. Yeah. Sorry, Josie.
I'm not. Thank you for joining us for this week's probe. You can find us everywhere at But It Was Aliens. That's Instagram, Facebook, on Twitter. And with Facebook, we have a secret group known as
Extraterrestrial Towers,
where you can find memes and shit. And over at Patreon.com/But It Was Aliens, you can gain access to Side Probes, the paranormal spin-off of But It Was Aliens. Here we look outside the extraterrestrial and everywhere else in the world and universe, covering pirates, ghosts, princes that love to peg, dogs, and Kev's favourite, Rasputin's dick.
Oh, yes.
That is everything from us. The truth is up there. #.